think it's clear to say that we're living in what we might call very challenging times. That I think require, in some perfect sense, a real public dialogue about what's important, what's not important, how do we go through change, transformation, how do we redesign ourselves, how do we redesign our society. There's so many major questions that are occurring in the world around us. But when you go to look at the social dialogue, and we'll talk now in terms for a moment of what you might call television and movies, what you see mostly, and I think it speaks to the American culture more than anything, is a fascination with cartoons and superheroes. That seems to be where the society is at. It's more infantilized than ever. People can't look at the real world, they have to look at a fantasy. They have to indulge in the Avengers, Spider-Man, Captain Marvel, Madagascar 2. It goes on and on. I mean, really, we're so rarely able to look at the truth of our current moment. We have to look at something that plays to the fantasy, and it's not a good thing. And I'll tell you, the idea for superheroes hasn't started with Marvel Comics or DC Comics. It really goes back to biblical time. We had all sorts of superheroes. Samson, capable of killing lions and doing all sorts of amazing things until they cut his hair. The secret was his hair. Moses walks across the parted Red Sea. Christ, who brought back the dead. Endless history in our culture of people doing supernatural things. And I have to say, part of what brought me to spiritual work on some level was reading a book called Autobiography of a Yogi, by Yogananda, who started to acquire all sorts of spiritual capacities. Rather remarkable. Even my own lineage with Nityananda in the stories they told in India was able to appear in two places at the same time. So part of what drew me to spirituality and to spiritual life was the idea of attaining something supernatural. That I wanted to be able to be like these guys. And there are some good qualities to it. Really, if you look at people like Superman and Batman, one of the interesting things about these guys is they do a lot of social good, and they stay behind masks. In other words, they don't look for credit. They don't look to be acknowledged for what they do. They have an instinct to do good, and to do it anonymously, which is a really wonderful quality. They don't need to be honored and revered for what they're accomplishing. But what does it say about us as a culture where you want to admire these people and yet live lives in which you simply go to watch them in 3D or turn on your television, sit on a couch, sit in a dark theater, and walk out somebody who goes, "Oh, I love those guys," and then you live your life of quiet despair. How do you translate this hunger for the superhero into the reality of your life? And what's this thing with animation, if I can bring that into the picture as well? You know, animation appeals to children for a very simple reason. Children don't see the world fleshed out. They see it in very simple terms. And animation appeals to that. It's the world they see. Animation is a world of brighter colors, perhaps. It leaves out a lot of information, and it enriches and heightens the story in very simple terms. There's a world of living forever as happily ever after, let's put it that way. And there's a world of real fearsome creatures that are overcome fairly easily. So the fact that we see the world in those terms really, really keeps us from seeing the world as adults. And it really keeps us from seeing the world as spiritual adults. It's dispiriting on some level that so many people who are entering the spiritual path are doing it to attain superpowers, to become supernatural, to become other than human, superhuman. And to think that they can own these powers, to think that they can actually become extraordinary human beings who can manipulate time and space. And trust me, this goes on deep into the annals of spiritual sort of practice and history. The Maharishi was trying to teach people to levitate. He had a college where they were teaching people to levitate, to get off the ground. And that's not so long ago, guys. And if you don't levitate, you're failing. You're a failed superhero. So where does reality kick in? Where do we start to become real people? If you want to be a superhero, it's not that hard. Do something nice for somebody. Help someone. Help someone you don't know. Save somebody. You know, there are lots of organizations that allow you to do that. Be a big brother. Donate money to something. Actually do something. Go somewhere. Change your life. Alter your life to become a better superhuman. Start to look at the world fleshed in rather than through the eyes of a child looking for the animated simplicities of life. Look at the complexities of the world. Everything really is about escaping reality, escaping truth, living outside of truth. Real spiritual life may engage you by your wanting to be a superhero, but it doesn't lead you to superhero status. It leads you to something else, which is truth and real life. And one of the things you discover in truth and real life is a capacity to be of enormous help, quietly and secretly even, to multitudes of people. You can actually touch somebody on the shoulder, shake their hand, look in their eye, and send them power the power of kindness, compassion, love, understanding. You can start to see the world actually as far more colorful than you've ever imagined it, almost like a cartoon. Only it's not simple in its color, it is glorious in its complexity. The world of a spiritual seeker is a world of wonder, a world of approaching what you see without any expectations, without any limitations of your own personal vision. You actually begin to lose your personal vision and discover something more remarkable, a kind of universal vision, a kind of larger vision of what is. You don't so much come up with answers to the world's problems, you come up with a deep, deep appreciation of the mystery at the core of all of this. And you start to walk around in the world as a presence, as a walking presence, a living, breathing manifestation of truth. It may be a shifting truth, it may not be a truth you even understand, but it will be truth. And you don't have to announce it even, you can just be it. It's not a truth you own, it's a truth you are. It's not a truth that comes from reading and from adopting a attitude. It's a truth that is at the core of who you are, and it is discovered not by attainment, but by letting go. It's discovered by letting things fall away, letting you fall away. The limitation on being a superhero, really, is your desire to be that. Your desire to own that status, your desire to be even recognized for that. You know, a true superhero isn't recognized, but most people who want to be them want to announce it to the world. I am a superhero. They go to conventions and wear robes and capes and do all these things to say, I'm a superhero. That's not a superhero. Superheroes dream of changing the world, but, you know, dreaming of changing the world has nothing to do with changing the world. Changing the world has to do with changing the world. And how do you change the world? Well, you know, you've heard this from time immemorial. Change yourself. Change yourself. What can you change? How can you change the world if you can't go on a diet? How can you change the world if you can't say a kind word to somebody? How can you change the world if you can't overcome the fact that you're frightened of stepping forward into a situation that's difficult? That's where the superheroes come from. Walking into the fearsome truth of life without being afraid, or with being afraid and still doing it. You know, Rudy's line, which I always loved, was, "Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, and I will fear no evil, even though I will be shitting in my pants every step of the way." That was Rudy's line. That's what it is. Nobody is immune from shitting in their pants. But you still go forward. You go forward with a kind of, yes, I can do this. And the heroism of that is enormous. The courage it takes to live, the courage it takes to get up and get out of bed and go through your day is unbelievably demanding. And how many people do it well? I mean, we all get out of bed, but how many of us actually enter the real day? How many of us try to live the day as though it is not real? It's not really happening. Read the newspaper. But not read the newspaper to get information, read the newspaper to be kept away from the day. You know, listen to the songs of your life from 20 years ago and live in the past. You know, drive to work daydreaming about something that isn't ever going to happen. I mean, it really is our life, to live the life that's always, always other than the truth. And the truth is this, right now. This is the truth. What else is there? This is the truth. There is this. And what is this truth? Well, I would tell you, this truth is holy land, holy territory, holy ground. The person in front of you right now, and now you're looking at me, and I'm not trying to point at me, I'm actually looking at you. The person in front of you is a manifestation of God, of holiness itself. The person in front of you, which means you, are to me a manifestation of all that is holy in the world. And it is my responsibility as a superhero to embrace you, to love you, to help you, to be available to you, to give you whatever I can. And I'm not trying to do it so you give me anything back. You know? It's not to walk around as some kind of, I'm a holy person giving you all of this stuff, because the minute you become that, you're not that. You're a false something. You're an owner of something that's not yours. That's lying. The true holy person is nobody. They're nobody. And the more you let things fall away, the more nobody you become. And it's an amazing thing. And while you're in the process of letting stuff fall away, the something of you is going to show up more brightly than ever. And that's very embarrassing. It's awkward, having to be there. And you know, that's what the journey is. The journey is more and more of you falls away, and the stuff that remains will be more glaring than ever. Rudy talked about it as you start to have a white suit and there's one black spot on it. And that black spot is all you or anybody seems to look at, or all you think anybody's looking at. And that's what's got to be worked away, or lived in spite of. Live in spite of the black spot. Everybody's looking at your black spot, you know. Blanche had an operation on her eye. She wants me to tell you that I hit her, you know, that the black eye is from me, because there has to be a story around your stuff. The truth is not stuff you want people to know, but the truth is the truth. And we all walk around trying to hide the black spot. Hi, I'm fine. Yeah, no, I can't shake hands. Hi, I can shake hands now. So you're covering your black spot. You're covering the stuff. It's okay. It's okay, but it's going to get worn away. Everything is going to get worn away. You are going to get worn away. Let it happen. Participate in the process. Be real. Look at the people around you and know that they are trying harder than you can imagine to be real. And they don't know how, they're scared to death, they don't know what to do. They are in a worse position than you almost universally. And what's your job with them? Well, I'll tell you what your job is with them. Be present with them. Know that they are suffering, that they're scared, that they're hurting, that they're distracted, that they don't have a clue, that they're walking through life blindly, and you can help them. You can just go, cross the street this way. Turn. Can I help you do this or do that? I mean, that's really the job of a spiritually awake person. And you don't have to do it sitting on a mountaintop. You don't have to do it flying with a cape over the city of Gotham or whatever city it is that you're trying to protect. Just do it with the people in front of you. Just do it with the people who are next to you. And you don't have to wait for them to say, oh my God, I'm terrified of life. Because they are already terrified of life, and they just won't tell you that. Nobody's going to tell you that, because nobody wants to look like they're suffering in this world. But everybody is suffering in this world, one way or another. And if you're not now, you will be. Because everything you have built and have gathered and are enjoying is going to go away. That isn't easy. That's not fun for anyone. And nobody wants to admit that, but that's what it is. Everything you love is going to be taken away. So you're going to suffer. If you aren't now, you know it's coming. And how do you help somebody deal with that? You love them. You embrace them. You say, I know what you're going through. And if you're lucky and they can really hear, you show them the benefit of allowing stuff to go. The benefit of allowing stuff to fall away is that which remains is you. Your true nature, your deepest self, your presence. And that presence doesn't have your name on it. It does right now, but it is an infinite and eternal presence. It is the Atman. It is the essence of who you are. And you can't discover the essence of who you are until it's either taken away or you gently and quietly and heroically let it go. And it will go drop by drop, piece by piece, sometimes chunk by chunk. It will fall away until this is exposed. And I will tell you that it doesn't get easier when it happens necessarily, but it's an amazing, important journey. Rumi talked about the garbanzo bean, if you remember reading that wonderful poem. The garbanzo bean is the last piece of you that is unwilling to let go. And the garbanzo bean is being dropped into the hottest fire imaginable. And it's going to be in this pan where it's going to be mushed into something that's going to be delicious. But that garbanzo bean does not want to go into that pan because it knows that's going to be burned and it's going to be totally decimated. And yet there's one garbanzo bean, I may be misinterpreting the poem now, that can't wait. That can't wait. It says, drop me in that pan. Drop me in, light the fire, let it happen. Why? Because it's going to find its deliciousness. It's going to find its true purpose, its true nature, and it will allow itself to move through the most horrifying events possible in order to be free. That's what we are. We're garbanzo beans terrified of the fire, and that's where we're all headed. And I don't mean the fires of hell, I mean the fire of living truthfully. The fire of day-to-day life. You know, it doesn't have to be some mythic thing. It's right here, right now. And taking the next step is part of the fire. Taking the next step is hard for everyone. Everyone. So stop thinking just about yourself and think about everyone else who's going through it, because they're hurting as much as or more than you are. And then you become a superhero. You become this wonderful entity that helps people, that loves people, and nobody knows who you are. Nobody knows that you're a superhero. That's the perfect image. You just are that. You know it. And nobody else needs to know. You are presence with a capital P. Any questions? Today's class was very deep. And some of you, as we go very deep, start to get cues of falling asleep. Try not to do that. When you go deep, it's very much the equivalent of going into deep sleep, only going in awake. And you need a muscle to stay awake. The muscle is just pay attention. And you go into this place of enormity, enormous being, and you're awake to it. You know, if you go there and you go like that, you're going to miss it. So we all have reasons, and I'm not being critical. I'm just telling you, try to find your way into that space and be present, because that's what it is. It's a deep sleep awake. It's that enormous place of comfort and awareness, or not call it awareness because most people don't perceive it that way, but it's a place of enfolding and great, great comfort. And it's within you. Don't sleep through it. Enjoy it. Be it. Thank you, guys.